Madam Mayor, you are live on YouTube. We are recording and sound and screen is on.
Okay, great, thank you. Welcome everyone. Before we begin, I just want to remind you that the meeting is being live streamed and recorded to the Township's YouTube channels. We have members joining, our council members joining, and other folks joining from Zoom as well. Just as a cautionary note, although I don't expect anything in the gallery will be terribly noisy, the way that these two things right in front of me are the cameras, and they actually shift their position based on noise and volume. So if somebody in the back corner coughs or makes any disruption, the camera will automatically, one of the cameras will automatically flip around to that direction. So we ask just for the streamlining of the streaming that members of the gallery try to be as quiet as possible. Today we have a number of delegations. Only registered delegations are permitted to speak at this afternoon's meeting. And with that, I will now call the roll. So please state your presence. Deputy Mayor Nelson.
Present.
Councillor Watt.
Present.
Councillor Verhoort, do we have you with us? Is Councillor Verhoort on?
He is with us. He doesn't appear to have sound, so he's just going to log back in.
Okay, we'll give him a moment. Councillor Johnston?
Present.
And to my left, stage right, our clerk Martina J. Cartwright.
Good afternoon.
CAO Lana Arthurs. And Councillor Verhoort, we'll just.
He has not logged back in, so we'll just give him another moment.
Oh, we have our interim treasurer. Welcome, Mr. Creamer. Doing anything?
Let's keep going just because we have a busy agenda. I'm sure he'll join.
I'm good with that. Just let me know when he does join the room. I probably won't see him. So with quorum in attendance, I now call the meeting to order. We respectfully acknowledge that we are on the treaty and traditional territory of the Michi-Sagaig. We offer our gratitude to the First Peoples for their care for and teachings about our earth and our relations. May we honor those teachings. And if we can just pause for a moment of silence. Okay, so the agenda package, folks, has been circulated to all the council. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing nothing, could I please get an adoption for the agenda? Councillor Watt, seconded by Deputy Mayor Nelson. All in favor? And that motion carries. Item 6, we have the adoption of minutes and business arising from the minutes. Could we get a motion to receive and approve those? Councillor Johnston, seconded by Deputy Mayor Nelson. All in favor? And that carries. On to our consent agenda. We have one item. If nobody wants to hold to speak to that, could I get a motion to approve that, please? Deputy Mayor Nelson?
So moved.
Second. Councillor Johnston, all in favor? And that carries. How are we for Councillor Verhoort? Not yet. Okay. So on to delegations, petitions, presentations, and public meetings. We do have 2 delegations registered. The first one is from Tina Warren and Lois Wallace, but I understand that they are not in attendance today, and our clerk will be presenting something. But before I hand it over to the clerk, I just want to acknowledge that this evening we will be hearing from a number of people regarding short-term rentals. I assume that's why everyone is here today to watch, and people are watching online. Tonight, council is here to listen, and I don't expect that a final decision will be made today. And I know there are strong differing opinions on short-term rentals, so I ask that members of the gallery and be respectful towards one another while they're making presentations or while presentations are being made throughout these proceedings. And over to you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ms. Warren and I'm sorry. So Tina Warren and Lois Wallace have submitted a petition. They are not able to join us today. They had submitted it on September 12th, and then they subsequently updated the list of persons who have signed it throughout the week. They did email me today to say they have a new updated list, and when they return, they will present that final list to us. That's all I can say. Everything's in your agenda package, the letter they prepared and the petition, and there's a link to the petition website in your package as well.
Okay, thank you for that, Madam Clerk. Could I get council, motion from council to receive the petition? Councilor Watt, second by Deputy Nelson, all in favor, and that motion carries. On to our second registered delegation, Mr. Doug Owens. You're here today, so welcome. Please take the lectern while you're walking up. All of our delegations, pre-registered delegations, have 10 minutes to speak. And Mr. Owens, I know you had supplied a number of documents in your registration, and it's been included in our council agenda today. So knowing that you have 10 minutes, and I know there's a lot of information to cover, I will ring a warning bell about 9 minutes into the presentation so that you know how time is tracking. And over to you, sir.
Okay, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Doug Owens. I've been on the lake since 1949. That makes me one that used to travel the gravel road, lake filled with the cotton. And we used to go to Crow's Landing and get ice cream. So I've been around the lake a long time. I was a practicing lawyer in Toronto for 42 years. And our firm was known as a real estate firm. And our peer group voted us one of the top 5 in Canada back in my day there. I started with 1 secretary, retired with over 30 lawyers, and probably another 40 support staff. So the third component is I sat on the Douro-Dummer bylaw committee when the 2 townships merged, because the shoreline representative drafting the new comprehensive general bylaw. So I was designated as the shoreline representative, and so I'm very familiar with Douro-Dummer's general bylaw. Most of the shoreline provisions have my rubber stamp all over them. And it leads me to one point: the only commercial use recognized in that bylaw is bed and breakfast with 1 unit only. The rest of the township was 4. Andre Dorton after that operate one from his cottage with 1 unit. So that's the distinguishing feature. The other commercial use permitted were limited home offices, because that was the way the world was trending. But we didn't want outside visibility, and we saw no reason why not to have home offices in the residential zone. So that's the bit of the background of myself and my involvement with Douro-Dummer. Why am I here today? Well, Tina can't be here today. She's avoided traveling, and she's the person that initiated the petition. So I'm here to read some of her correspondence. Likewise, the Virtue Road Association has a letter that was filed with Township, and it deserves a reading too. So I don't know if you've all read the correspondence. I may be repeating what you've already read, and if I am, pardon me, I'll try to keep things short.
Thank you.
So, the funny thing, this afternoon, before I came here, I'm reading the Globe and Mail, today's Globe. Now, I never see a good headline for Airbnb. So now it's developed out in British Columbia, and they've got a housing problem. They got a housing shortage. So they're looking at enacting out provincial-wide legislation to restrict the conversion of long-term rental into short-term. And the quote here that draws attention is, just over the past summer, 17,000 units have been converted from long-term housing to short-term rentals. So this is a phenomenon that we're seeing all over the country. No housing and long-term housing being converted to ghost hotels, for want of a better word. So here we are now in Douro-Dummer. So I want to focus first on your code of conduct and the rules by which you adhere to your own office. because everybody has their own opinions, and I respect individual opinions. But when you cast your vote, right in your purpose and principles, the members that represent the public consider the well-being and interests of the township as a corporate body and all of its ratepayers. So I ask each to cast aside personal views and look at what is best for the township. I also note that township members will encourage members of the public and their colleagues to abide by township's bylaws. I respect them on my property. Bylaws serve a function. Township did a survey. In Township's own survey, the second question, do you believe short-term rentals should be regulated by the Township of Douro-Dummer? Yes, 294 representing 71%. So comes to the letter of September 12th from Tina Lauren. Frankly, I've never met Tina. And I met her late in the spring after the disbandment of the short-term rental committee. By happen chance, I was the interim president of the USLA Association. And we had a meeting of members, an informal meeting. I think you were probably there, friend, and Tina was there. So Tina, on her own account, has been viewing and watching these short-term rental meetings. And frankly, they sort of became a bit dysfunctional. Maybe we were doing it from the beginning, because we had 3 residents and we had 3 operators. And what I learned through the process, number one, is you've got a terrific professional staff here. And I learned from your CAO that you really can't enforce your own bylaw against illegal use, because you don't have the lawyers and the budget and the manpower. And I respect that. So as a member of that committee, I was prepared to move and adopt, but revert to licensing as a matter of controlling what's going on around Stony Lake. And the other 2 members representing the residents, when we heard that explanation, we all followed suit. Because you don't have the manpower to take these people to court to get injunctions. It's expensive, takes lawyers, and you're a small township. So that's respected. So Tina initiated this petition, and she never had initiated a petition before in her life. She told me she woke up at 5:30 in the morning and said, I'm going to do something. And she figured out how you go on this petition thing, and she instituted it. And I wasn't even prior to instituting it. An issue I thought maybe it'll gather 50 or 75 support. And to my amazement, it did. But then it got rolling. And it was rolling at the rate of 150 a week. And how this was spreading around Stony Lake and Birchview Road, I'll never know. Until the point today, I think we have 626 people that have endorsed this petition. That's amazing. In 4 weeks. On top of that, we have representatives of the Birchview Road Association endorsing on behalf of their 200 members the want and the need to bring in licensing as a means of control of what we've been facing for the last 4 or 5 years. So in aggregate, I rounded at 800 people. You're going to hear others with differing views, but their numbers may be 4 or 5 people. So I think you got to respect the will of the lake, and we've spoken as best we can speak. So I'm here to present Tina's petition, and that's the genesis of the petition. Now I'd like to go to a letter from the Birchview Road Association, as it's concise and it's well written. And they indicate they represent approximately 200 owners along the south and east sides of Clear Lake. And they recognize renting out the family cottages as a way to make cottaging affordable. But they also recognize the commercial operators of purchased property for the sole purpose of renting without taking responsibility for the renter's actions is detrimental to our lake. That Birchview Association supports their,
1 minute, Mr.
really?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
We have the letter though.
yeah, you have the
Yeah,
letter.
we do have the letter, of course.
So we're up to 800 people, and I'm here speaking for 800 people. We want licensing, we want control, we want a mechanism, a phone number to phone, we want a way of enforcing the township bylaws, ensuring we don't get fires during fire bans, respect the neighbors, respect our privacy, and we'll all get along fine. Thank you, council. I'm out of time.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, so from council, motion please to receive that delegation. Councilor Johnson, Councilor Long, all in favor? And that carries, and we do have Councilor Ward on the line. I don't, his video is not able, but
He has audio, I'm not sure his video capabilities, but he is with us.
okay. Councilor Ward?
Yes, I am here, and I'll raise my hand to that as well.
Thank you so much. Okay, so now we are on to the public comment period. Before I do move on, Mr. Owens, I meant to, I apologize, to thank you for your work on the committee. I know, and I was saying this to a couple of other folks on the committee, it's volunteer work because you're passionate about the issue, and I know it's time consuming, and we appreciate your time and engagement here today and on the committee particularly. So we're moving on to the public comment period. This is a little new for us on the agenda. This is the first time we've had this in our procedure, and I am excited that we are able to do this. So we have 5 people who have registered to speak on the agenda. I've been given a list of the speaking order that has been published. Each person will have 5 minutes exclusively to speak. Same kind of process. You'll get a warning bell when there's a minute left of your time, and you'll please proceed out to the lectern when your time is up, or when your time is called, when your name is called. So first, we have Suzanne Corbs. Suzanne, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mayor Watson, council members, and council audience. My name is Suzanne Corus, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak before council in support of the short-term rental bylaw on the agenda for tonight. I have the privilege of serving on the short-term rental advisory committee, and my interest in participating on the committee was driven by the concern for a growing number of unregulated short-term rentals that was being observed on Stony Lake. My hope in serving on the committee was that we could provide a recommendation to council that would bring some balance between individual homeowner concerns and short-term rentals. The STR committee produced a draft bylaw for licensing enforcement with recommendation to council. The draft bylaw was researched and written by Douro-Dummer staff, and it's comprehensive and considered all avenues of control and enforcement. And I thank Douro-Dummer staff for all their hard work and efforts on that draft bylaw. There is an opportunity for a revenue stream, but it requires further research, and there may be opportunities to make the program revenue neutral. Part of the draft bylaw, which is important, it provides a council with a tracking mechanism to start to track the number of STRs in the community and the complaints with respect to those rentals. You'll be able to obtain some metrics regarding the issues around short-term rentals. There's a renter's code of conduct and an owner contract within 30 minutes. These are all positive things and will help landlords manage their tenants better and hopefully ease residents' frustration. I believe that it's council's responsibility to work for the good of all the residents of Douro-Dummer and not just owners who run commercial rentals in communities. Douro-Dummer taxpayers should not be asked to foot the bill for increased police calls by law enforcement, increased use of municipal services, and landlords continue to reap the profits based on residential taxes. The environmental issues, noise and nuisance have all been noted in other correspondence. And of course, here's the petition with the 623 plus people signed it. As it stands right now, there's not a good system for complaints. Even from the large home sharing platforms, it's not a good response for complaints. It takes sometimes years, sadly, for people to get the complaints addressed. And it hits neighbors against each other. And that's a sad thing. And I think that we need to address that. Some people don't want licensing enforcement. The answer is just call the police. Residents pay for police calls, and I, for one, do not want to make police go away from legitimate calls to deal with nuisance issues. Property owners should not be forced into the business of policing neighbors and renters. I urge council to approve the draft bylaw, and it's a positive step forward. Respectfully. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gross. Okay, and Ms. Goros, thank you for your time on the committee as well. Again, same, I know it's so hard to get people to give up their time to be part of a process, and we do appreciate your time and energy on the committee and being here today. On to our next member of the public is Mr. Martin.
Good afternoon, my name is Jeff Martin. I was part of the short-term committee to discuss some of the concerns with regard to STRs. I do not have an Airbnb. Through working with this committee, it was brought to the attention that we were concerns with regard to excessive, inconsiderate, disturbing noise and uncontrollable fires, as well as pets running through our properties, garbage that was becoming such a nuisance that people didn't know how to move forward without involving the township. This could be interpreted as neighborhood complaining. In working with this committee and speaking to our lawyer, he was very clear to recommend that the members of the township try to work this out amicably and utilize resources that we already have, such as civil law. It's not the responsibility of the township to look after everybody's concerns. We have many unsubstantiated claims that have been brought forward with this local petition. In this petition has been shown that several individuals that have signed don't even live or reside in this township at any point. I think it's only prudent that before the township decisions are made, that the township is in contact with the OPP and fire department and anyone else that needs to be concerned to gather data and get the true numbers and severity of the claims of noise and disturbance and uncontrollable fires, accompanied by fines to substantiate such claims. If this is really has a terrible detrimental behavior, which jeopardizes the well-being, and apparently it has not, people who have clearly signed the petition yet admittedly confirmed that they have not utilized these resources, why would it be necessary to implement such an overreach to the rest of the members of the township? Based on a handful of unsubstantiated claims from a few local members for noise complaints and uncontrolled fires, we as a community are being asked to expel valuable and limited resources to the township to license, patrol, and enforce unnecessary restrictions being imposed onto unwilling citizens. These complaints must be validated before such extreme actions are implemented. I ask the township contact the OPP and get the necessary numbers to validate such claims and give feedback to the community members to substantiate the need to move forward on this topic. We are very fortunate to live here. We all have all this beauty, and we have a diverse population in our township. People of all walks of life and social and economic positions are represented here. Some are more fortunate than others. Not everyone inherits their properties. Not everyone is fortunate financially as others. Having the ability to rent our homes respectfully and with consideration for our neighbors should never be an option that is taken away. This could be a difference between someone being able to keep their family cottage or property or not being able to afford it at all. A licensing program is extremely expensive to the members of the SDR community as well as for the township itself. The implementation and licensing software to perform the accounting and for the new system has not been even priced yet, which is another thing in itself. But if someone is renting a place for 6 to 7 weeks a year to cover some of their expenses, that's one thing. If the licensing program comes in, that means people need to rent for 8 to 10 years to cover these new expenses. It seems that controlling the rental market is now becoming counterproductive, and it now justifies the need to rent more often to cover these increased expenses. Renters also impact the township economically as they bring a huge amount of business into the community. It strikes me as odd as all these people complaining on Stony Lake maybe haven't realized the community was built on short-term rentals, and the Trent Severn Waterway is for tourism and has been for tourism since the beginning. All the members who have signed want to expel these resources. Are they willing to pick up the slack, go to restaurants 3 to 4 nights a week, go to local businesses enough to support the local community? Because if this will affect people dramatically, and this void needs to be filled. STR spend money on groceries, gas, hardware, entertainment, dining out, and support our community. I ask the council to consider the implications of this type of program and the effects it will have on our community of 7,500. We need to consider, where is the funding coming from? Will our taxes be raised? And what are the programs that are going to suffer if the funds and resources are allocated to support an unnecessary program? How will this affect our local merchants, vendors, restaurants, and tourism as a whole? These are our friends. These are our neighbors you're doing this to. How will this affect the economic development and the township's strategic plan for growth and enriching our community with new opportunities? How's that going to affect us if all this divides our community? With no backup reports or data illustrating these apparent issues occurring, how can it be justified to implement a program that there's no need for? I asked the township to do a feasibility study and get the appropriate numbers, financials, and see the potential overreach does not bankrupt our precious little community. I asked the township to give every community member the opportunity to vote, whether this is necessary based on the gathered data, along with informative information and ensuring the community understands the cost implications to satisfy this request of the few. Let's try to build our community up instead of allowing a few to tear it down. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Mr. Martin sitting on the committee. It's to say, Mikey, I was talking to you in the gallery earlier as well, and everybody's got busy lives, and the fact that you are here today, but also the time that you gave to sit on the committee, thank you. Moving on to our next speaker, we have Mr. Koch. Whatever you're ready.
So the question is, will licensing solve problems and will it be cost effective? And unfortunately, the answer to this question is no. No one is saying that concerns from people are not legitimate or that something should not be done by people causing problems. However, it is not fair to impose things on people who have been doing things right and with no concerns and to lump them in common with people who break rules. I have been listing properties in Douro-Dummer for 27 years. I want problem people dealt with as well. It's time to put the responsibility back on the individuals causing the problems and not others. Let's take a look at a few examples. Tate Township, which is Georgian Bay and Penetang and Midland, a big township, had 28 complaints from 15 residents for 7 properties. Council felt it was better and more cost effective to deal with those 7 people directly. They opted for education and bylaw enforcement. To add to their concerns, licensing touches off on certification of many items, and this is dangerous. Do we accept the liability that comes with these certificates? There is a big need for increased staffing as well as increased staff loads in areas that are already overworked. Also, if STRs are considered a business and need a license, does that open the door for many home businesses that exist, and will the township have to regulate them in the same way? And let me tell you, if you start regulating and licensing people, there will be people in this township who will take you to court to enforce the rules equally to everybody. Sedlin Township tried prohibition in the early 2000s before this became an issue. Even when they had a ban in place, which, by the way, resulted in legal non-conforming status and STRs being grandfathered in, they had still over 300 STRs in operation. They did not have the manpower or the money to enforce it. They opted instead for quality of life bylaws that apply to everyone equally in the township. Selwyn Township, Lakeville, spoke to the clerk, they went on an education campaign and quality of life bylaws, 18,000 people, not just waterfront STRs, rural ones like Douro-Dummer. Only a few properties causing concerns. The number of properties that would need licensing would be overwhelming to the township, according to the clerk. Once they explain the quality of life bylaws and the system that binds and follows, people understand. Here's the proof. In 2022, they issued 3 warnings and 1 fine. People get the message. Lake of Bays Township. They had in 2021 a licensing program. They had 125 licensed, yet there's over 1,000 listed on Airbnb. They cannot enforce it. They don't have the manpower. Marlborough Township, too expensive for the small number of people causing the problems. They also estimated that it would cost $30,000 per STR in reserve to fight legal fees. City of Kingston just announced that it's costing 3 times more in expenses than they're generating in revenue. At the end of the day, licensing doesn't solve the problem. Good STR owners will get licensed, they'll follow the rules. The bad ones will just go underground, just like they have in other townships where the proof is the other ones, they have more than they're listed. Then it's up to you, the township, to find them, prove they are running an STR, and how are you going to do this? It was my family there last week. It was my Uncle Joe. People lie. Granular software that you talk about tracking will not find everyone for you, and it still requires neighbors to document neighbors. Is this what you want? Also, it only scrapes the large companies like Airbnb and VRBO, not small travel agencies, not rental companies, not real estate agents, and most importantly, not social media groups or Facebook groups. How are you going to find those people and license them? You already have some people calling up neighbors and accusing them of running Airbnbs when in fact they're just having family use. Is this what you want in your townships? Neighbors accusing neighbors? Witch hunt after witch hunt? Witch hunt after witch hunt? How's the township going to deal with this? Is the township going to go out to properties that are not STRs that people think they are? How do you think that's going to go over? I don't see any lawsuits happening there. As a taxpayer, I believe you as council have a responsibility of being fiscally responsible. A licensing program is not fiscally responsible. It is a financial and enforcement and legal entanglement. Spending money right now for a licensing program, knowing that there are multiple cases currently before the courts right now as we speak, is hugely irresponsible. The answer is what other townships have come up with, is to enhance the quality of life bylaws and apply those bylaws equally to everyone in the township. Put the responsibility back on the people causing the problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coach. Sir, thank you for your time on the committee and your work and your commitment in that. Up next on our agenda, we have Mr. Hillman.
Thank you, council, for letting me speak.
Welcome, sir.
I live on the Cracken Landing Road. I've lived there for 43 years. I have an Airbnb right beside me. I can throw it like that, but I don't. Because he is the best neighbor I've ever had. The people he bought off of, they burned furniture in the yard, they left junk wash machines in the yard. It was a ghetto. He bought the place, he put thousands of dollars in it, the septic systems. It sleeps 8 people. We have had no problem in 3 years, nothing. You know, in here, they bring their kids up, there's all kinds of kids play centers in the yard. We talked to them during COVID. Thank God for the Airbnbs, because these people are in apartments. And they were cooped up. They had go to an Airbnb, they're out in the country, they go for a walk, they bring the bicycles up, they ski, they do all kinds of stuff. It was a good break. And this might happen again. We need these things. We need these. And like I said, they've been no problem at all. And there's another one just down, 3 more houses. My next door, that neighbor to him, no problem with them either. He's a retired soccer player. The other guy beside me, he works for the Blue Jays. I don't know there. But we've had no problem at all. And none of the other neighbors, no, there's nothing complaint. And you wave at him, get along with him, he's just a neighbor like anybody else. And Yeah, that's about it.
Okay.
It's short, it's sweet, and we have a good time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bowman. And our last member of the public who is speaking is Ms. Janisic, who I believe is joining us on Zoom.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. So my name is Nina Janisic, and I've been a member of the Douro-Dummer Short-Term Rental Advisory Committee for the past year, and I felt it was important to come on here this evening and share my comments. First of all, I'd like to thank our CAO, Alana Arthurs, and our clerk, Martina, and all the staff of the township for all of your hard work on this issue over the past year. You have many important projects on the go, and we all appreciate your time and assistance and attention you've paid to this matter. The reason so many of us are here this evening to share our views is because we love this community and we want to see it thrive. That is a common thread we all share. We all know short-term rentals have garnered a lot of attention, not just in our community, but across the province and around the world. VRBO was launched in 1995 and Airbnb in 2008. But this issue really came to the forefront with STR proliferation in 2020, when the world was forced into lockdown and travel was restricted. The world changed. People were limited to where they could vacation, and towns like ours saw a tremendous surge in short-term rental activity. But travel restrictions have lifted. The pandemic is over. People are no longer flocking to our community in the same numbers. They're traveling the world. They're going to Europe, Africa, South America, and Disney World. Our own committee members, in favor of the licensing approach, shared that disturbances they had experienced previously have declined significantly over the last year, citing just one challenge each. These challenges can be alleviated with the use of strengthened quality of life bylaws. We are a small township, a township with real challenges like funding for our fire department, infrastructure projects, and public works buildings. We cannot afford the tremendous expense of a licensing program, let alone the litigation that will surely ensue. We do not need to be the pioneers. Let other jurisdictions with larger budgets and real issues with STRs test the waters and set the precedent. Additionally, this licensing proposal before council has not been fully costed. It would be irresponsible for council members to vote on moving forward with a licensing option when a price tag has not been attached and real concerns about how the program will be paid for and administered have not been addressed. Finally, if housing availability is a concern, any regulation should target commercial operators, owners of multiple rental properties, so as not to impact the traditional benign ma and pa owners who rent their cottage on occasion to families for short durations during the summer, which we've all heard has been a long-standing tradition on the lake. Thank you to the STR committee members and to council for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Janisic. Time and energy into the short-term rentals today. We appreciate that. Okay, moving on to the next item on our agenda, folks. I know you're going to hear us talk about short-term rentals. We've got a couple of reports before that. We'll go on to a report and capital project status. Does council have any questions of staff on that report? Councillor Watt?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. Just one, and it's just a little bit of an update. And we did a bylaw to regulate the use of the municipal docks. Since that has gone into place, have things calmed down? We settled down, things going the way they should be now, or are we still having any problems, be it major or minor?
Through Mayor Watson to Councillor Watt, I have not personally had any complaints come through me since we have established that. I know that our bylaw enforcement officers have been down. We did have some stickers produced so that we can apply those if folks are parking legally in the area. We also had some signage put up, so I think everybody is aware. We are still waiting on the set fines to be approved though.
That's good. No, thank you. Perfect.
Any other questions from council to staff on the report? Seeing nothing further, could we get a motion to receive that? Yes. Councillor Johnston, second by Deputy Mayor Nelson. All in favor? And that carries. Thank you, Councillor Report. That's effective. Moving on to item 10.2, extension of the legal services agreement, and I'll hand it over to Ms. Eckers.
Thank you, Mayor Watson. The recommendation is that CAO 2023-23, report dated October 3rd, 2023, regarding the extension of legal services agreement report be received, and that council approve the one-year extension with Arid Burles LLP for legal services for the Township of Douro-Dummer. Just a quick overview. I did have a conversation with our lead solicitor, John Mascaro. The fees have certainly gone up. I think like anything, but it does get quite costly for the municipality when we engage with legal representatives. We do have some files still with Arid Burles, so I think at this point, this agreement will carry us through until October of next year, and we'll reevaluate to determine whether or not we want to continue. I would expect they will hold the 2023 rates through to August 2024, likely be revisited again coming into 2025, so we might want to have a further look at it at that time.
Thank you. Any questions?
Through the chair, just one comment, like the prices of the different aspects vary quite different. Do we have a say who we use, or they just say, no, here's the next one available that can work on your item, whatever we're working on?
Through Mayor Watson to Councillor Johnston. John Mascaron is fantastic. When we will reach out to him, he is our point of contact, and then he will provide us with the appropriate lawyer. Sometimes it isn't a lawyer. Sometimes we can have that done with a more junior staff. So he's very good at trying to keep our costs down. And there's many times that he speaks with me and we are not charged for it. So I do appreciate their service, and they are excellent lawyers, but we are a small municipality and it is quite costly. So we're just trying to be mindful of that. And, is this the firm that we need to go to for everything, or do we just, use their services when it's something that that we really need that expertise?
I'll move this recommendation for me.
Second, Councillor Watt, all in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you. And now we are on to item 10.3, short-term rental advisory committee summary and next steps. Back over to you again, Ms. Eckers.
Thank you, Mayor Watson. The recommendation is a CAO 2023-24 report dated October 3rd, 2023, regarding the short-term rental advisory committee summary and next steps be received, and that council directs staff to finalize the draft bylaws related to noise and nuisance for approval at the next council meeting, and that council provide direction to staff on next steps with regard to short-term rentals and related enforcement in the Township of Douro-Dummer. I think this evening you've heard most of what is in my report on both sides, and we had lots of healthy discussion. Tonight, our recommendation from staff is that we take a look at those draft bylaws, provide any feedback. We did have some conversation at the committee level about things that we wanted to address. So I'm looking for council direction if there's any changes that you'd like to have made, and we can bring those back for approval. And then subsequent to that, looking at all of the options that were provided to the committee, is it with regard to licensing and other options, where would council like to go at this point, and directing staff to come back with that information.
Thank you for that. Council. Councillor Watt.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. Thank you. A lot of information to go through. I do like the nuisance and the noise bylaws. There's a couple of things in there that I would still like to see addressed. One being, there's a section in there, the one on fireworks, and it's pretty vague as to what, and how, and why. I'd like to see a bit more information come back on that one. Like, we have people come up on the 24th weekend, Canada Day, that type of thing like that. And there is times that just happen willy-nilly that we want to try and, but again, you're how much enforcement we can do on something like that. But I would like to see a little more information on that bylaw. The other thing that I saw was we have to send to the Solicitor General for fines. Now, that one, and I know it was talked about before, but I've since kind of been told that, and I'll just use not naming names, firms kind of like that. So let's say the first fine, was $500 or whatever like that. Well, then I had a person say to me, well, I charge $3,500 a week for my rental property, so $500 isn't going to deter me any. But we talked one time about steps, like, the next one will be 1,500, maybe 2,500, the third one would be 5,000. But then I was told that you can't do that. You just have to have a set fine. So if that's the case, like, I want to make sure that these, if we put these bylaws in place and get them enforced, and I do think they're much needed, like, to strengthen them up and get them going, that we have a substantial fine in there that's going to make, the eyes open, not just I don't really care, and like that, you know, it's just a spit in the bucket, kind of like that. Those two are fine. As far as the licensing, I'm not prepared yet for the, to go anywhere with licensing. I think there's more information on that that we need. And one thing, for instance, is somebody's got 10 properties that they're renting out compared to the person, like the mom and dad that are renting it out for 2 or 3 weeks, like people adhere to their family to help offset some costs for taxes. Where do you draw the line on who's licensed and who's not, kind of like that? Like, I'm not comfortable with that, the fact that we can't pick and choose kind of like that. And as someone stated here, I think we're gonna run into lawsuit after lawsuit if we enforce the licensing. The other two, I'm fully prepared for, but the licensing one, I still think we need to sit back, see what happens, monitor these other two big time, like really push them, and that may just cool things down, it's hard to say, but the licensing thing is one that's really gonna help me thinking that we may be fighting ourselves to process it right now.
Councilor, what you asked Ms. Arthurs a couple of questions with respect to the bylaw, the noise bylaw. Perhaps for ease for council to navigate through this large report, we look at just channeling we look at 2 motions, basically, whatever we're ready to make them, but we break apart the nuisance and noise bylaws, and we'll have a conversation around that as a council. And then look at the licensing, non-licensing, whatever that looks like as well, if that's okay with council, just so we can kind of keep the comments a little bit streamlined and organized. So Ms. Arthurs, did you want to address, could you please address a couple of the questions that Councillor Watt asked specifically around the bylaws? Thank you.
Through you, Mayor Watson, to Councillor Watt. You weren't the only person to raise the question about the fireworks, and the thought from the municipality standpoint was to have it in our noise bylaw, but then have a policy that addresses when the municipality is prepared to allow them. So if that's Labor Day, Victoria Day, those long weekends, just so that we have some structure. You're right, it is difficult to find where they're coming from when somebody makes that complaint. But if we have that structure in place, you know, we can only hope that we would have compliance. And the council could decide on which weekends they wanted to allow, but it does avoid that daily or every weekend occurrence. As far as the fines, so my experience in trying to obtain set fines was just that. When we tried to escalate the fines, the information that came back was the municipality has to be revenue or cost neutral. So we can't charge more than what it costs us to administer or lay these fines. So when we tried to escalate it, the comment was, you can't have it at $100 today and say that's what it's going to cost, but then in the second occurrence, it's going to cost you $200 because it's not realistic. I did reach out to Four of the Lakes because their fines were quite substantial and they do increase. And they, we talked about other things, one being an AMP program, which is something totally different, but they did indicate that they had these approved from the Solicitor General's office with the escalating fines. So I would go back and do some further investigation and determine how they went about that. What we did previous, and you may remember with the previous council, when I came with the nuisance bylaws, we also had a fine established where we had inspection fees. And the way that we structured that was to say the cost was going to be, and forgive me, I'm not sure exactly. I think we said $300 per inspection. And the first one would be a courtesy. The second one would be $150. You'd get it at half the price. The third one would be $300. So I was confident we could get that through in that sense. And I'm not sure if Four of the Lakes has tried to apply the same type of method, but I would certainly reach out and ask prior to submitting those set fines or prior to having the bylaw approved at the council level so that we are assured when we move forward that they're approved and we're not delayed.
Just if I can interrupt, I think we're doing that right now with our septic inspections. Or not.
To the mayor, it's slightly different because it's not a fine. So we can establish a fee, but when we are fining and asking for those set fines to be in place, it has to have that approval. So we still could be challenged if we create a fee that is outrageous and is not realistic to what it's costing the municipality, but it's at our level to approve that and justify the cost as opposed to the province doing that.
Understood. Thank you. Councilor Watt, you have another question?
Yeah, and that's good. Like I said, it's just, to me, it's just a deterrent. You know, the higher it gets, the more people are going, oh, I think I better step up my game here a little bit and make sure that people that are renting are following all the rules and regulations, stuff like that. Because nobody wants to lose $5,000, you know, over somebody being in trouble or causing trouble, stuff like that. And then the other, yeah, so all of these things, I think for the fireworks, that would be great. I just, yeah, and I know you mentioned some dates there, so we got, I know we have a couple close together, because we have our Canada Day on the 1st of July. But we have a lot of US citizens too that own cottages on Stony, so we got some 4th of July is a big one for them, kind of like that. So we gotta be, you know, remembering the fact that it's not just ourselves Canadians here that stand for this thing. Anyway, that's all good. Thank you very much.
Any other questions from staff on the bylaws, Councillor Johnston?
Well, I support the bylaws as far as getting the ones with the nuisance bylaw, the noise bylaw. I think that, you know, we gotta get them in place. How we act and place them is another story. As far as to the public, as far as forming the police on issues, feel free to do it. Just to think that every time you form it, our cost is going to go up. No, it's not going to go up. We've got a set fee that we pay for the year, and now they look at it on our calls for service down the road, and things might go up at the end a little bit, but normally speaking, no, feel free to form the police. It's not, the problem is getting them out. Might be a day or two later, you know, that's the problem. But anyways, feel free to do that. All I can say on this here right at this moment is that I think the biggest problem we've got is education. The people that are renting these places, they come up, they're on holidays and they kind of let loose. And to a point, that's acceptable. But the thing is, educating to the point that they gotta respect the neighbors. You know, whether it be partying allowed all night, fires out in the water carrying on. You know, a lot of these things, when they're out there and they forget sometimes, you know, what they're really doing, because for first thing you know, it's gonna be an accident. And whether it be in the water, or whether it be on the land, whatever. And the way I look at it, half of this is education. You know, the people that who owns these places have to tell the short-term rental companies that, you know, they gotta toe the line. And we've got to be, as a municipality, be able to give them a paper, that these are things that are expected of you. Because other than that, the people are gonna be checked on, and then the owner is gonna be charged. So I think a big part of this is education. As far as licensing, there's some of it that I'm in favor of some of it. People that just buy the place and rent them and never even come around, you know, somewhere along the line, they need to be controlled, because we're spending good money having to service these places, you know, whether it be checking on their septic on water, whatever, and the noise and that. There are some of them, you know, and the thing is in life, the rules are made only on a few people that abuse the situation. You know, there's so many other good people, like we said tonight. You have neighbors and the people come and they're all along. They're good neighbors and they're good people, and they just want to hold it because they can't afford a cottage or whatever. But like, I know people that travel a lot and they go over to Europe and they use these all the time, and they're good people and they have good results. So I'm not against them, but I do think there's a time and place for everything. And I don't think just a wide open, thrown open to everybody. No, that's not where our township is. We got people, that residents, that you people that live out there, and you want people to respect you the same as you want to respect them. And I think that's what this is half all about. And it's opening up. It's a different world out there. Everything is different. Everything. So things will never be the way they were. So I think we've got to walk into this, don't make decisions real quick, but we've got to respect you people and your properties. And therefore, these other people need to be educated when they rent these places. That all I can say is that they got to respect their neighbors. And a lot of cases that we hear are just individual ones that go in and they just hear the party and you know, it's unfortunate they abuse the situation where they're in a nice area and good neighbors around. So I think we've got to do a lot of soul searching here to see exactly what we want to do, because we've got to address it. There's more and more and more, and like I say, I'm not against it, but I think it's the time and place for all this stuff. So at this stage, and I do appreciate everybody that said their speech there, and bottom line is back and forth. You all have good comments, and that's the thing, and you gotta live on those comments, that respect everybody else. So I say, we got a bunch of things we gotta do here. And thanks for your help with all this.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson, for your question on the nuisance bylaws. Do you have any questions on the nuisance, the noise and nuisance bylaws?
No,
Just while you-
I think it's like, my concern is the biggest thing is education. Getting a form sent out to the people that are renting these places and say, this is what expect out of you.
Yep.
And the owner needs to be told that they get out of line, it's your money.
I appreciate your comments,
No, that's
Councillor.
all.
We're just trying to deal with the bylaws for the noise and nuisance at this moment, just to kind of separate them out, make it a little bit easier to navigate.
Okay.
Deputy Mayor Nelson, Councillor of the Board, I see your hand up as well, but Deputy Mayor Nelson had his hand up first, so go ahead, sir.
I don't really have a question, but I'd like to move forward and make a motion that we accept the bylaws and move forward with staff updating the bylaws.
Okay, I'll ask you to hold that then.
Yeah.
Councillor Reward, do you have a question on the nuisance and noise bylaws, or are you looking to advance to talk to about the short-term rental licensing or otherwise?
No, just wanted to talk very quickly, Mayor Watson, about the noise and nuisance bylaws. Strongly in favor of those, and I feel like based on the discussion here so far, it's probably a matter of kind of confirming our status with these bylaws, and then subsequently having staff go and look at fines and fee structure as a sidebar. But I think first let's get the bylaw approved, and then we can sort out fees next. So in the vein of that, I would second Deputy Mayor Nelson's motion here.
Okay, thank you for that. I think if I can just add from what I was talking, what we were hearing around fireworks, a policy as well to support that. If the mover and seconder are okay to include, to have staff move forward with that. Councillor Report, you're okay with that?
Yes, I am.
All right, thank you very much. So we do have a motion on the floor to have staff move forward with the draft noise and nuisance bylaws. Is there any discussion on the motion? Councillor Watt?
One last quick question, enforcement. Do we do it as a township, or will we be looking down the road to hire like the old company that's in here to do this for us, or is that still kind of on the, we're not sure yet?
Through Mayor Watson to Councillor Watt. At this stage, we will try to do this with the existing staff. Bylaw certainly is becoming something that's taking up a lot of time. And our bylaw officers are also our building inspectors, so they're trying to manage both. We may have further discussion during budget time. Certainly, if we start to look at licensing and that kind of thing, we will need staff resources, but we'll try to manage these specifically with what we have. We also have the OPP that once we have these set fines, they are able to go and they are able to take it. So once we provide them with the bylaw and that information, it does enable them to assist us with that. So, but if we find that the call volume is a lot, then we may have to come back and look at some bylaw enforcement. And some municipalities do it internally and some contract it. So.
Just make fine big.
Any other discussion on the motion that's before us? Then I'll call for the vote. All in favor? And that motion carries. I'm going to say Councillor Report is in favor. I don't want to. Oh, there we go. Here we go. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so now shifting gears on short-term rental, licensing, no licensing, all of that's before us this evening. I'll open the floor for discussion. Deputy Mayor Nelson?
Yes, first of all, as chairman of the committee of the short-term rentals, I'd just like to thank all the committee members and the committee members that are here and online for spending your time with us in regards to trying to come up with some basically advice to council. And I know the committee was pretty much split. And anyways, but I do thank everybody for their time. When it comes to licensing, I believe that by the motion that we just made here and stiffening up our bylaws, I'm not in favor of licensing. I believe it's using a sledgehammer to kill about 3 flies. And that's really what I got out of the committee. Most of the complaints and the stuff, I believe that will be addressed by tightening up our bylaws and not costing the municipality. I'm looking at probably just, and we haven't heard what that cost actually is. We don't know what that cost is to license, but I believe that to spend 2 to 3% maybe of our current budget on a licensing fee and tie up people's time for, if people go underground, as been mentioned here tonight, I believe that that's a lot of money out of the taxpayers. And this isn't just lake people. This is not just for the lake. This is for right across our township. There's, as we heard here tonight, there's Airbnbs or other rental properties throughout our township, not just on the lake. But we're going to be asking everybody to license that, and fair is fair. And maybe that could be even home businesses. We're going to be challenged as a council, and I believe we will be challenged very greatly on a lot of stuff that's happening out there, and especially if you look at home business, or we look at other businesses that are happening within the township. And why are we picking on Airbnbs or that type of rental? So I throw that out there that I am not in favor of licensing. I've never been in favor of that. And so that's where I see it right now. I don't get me wrong, if it becomes a huge issue, then we might have to look at that. But at this point, I don't believe to jump and say we're going to license. I think we need to sit back, monitor it, and then make some decisions later on if it does become a problem or an issue, and how we can handle that best. I don't think we want to be the first one to the plate, I'll say, for to do that. And we've already seen bigger municipalities, and we know that it costs a lot of money to do that, and it's not revenue neutral. So it's a lot of money. When I look at, we need fire service, we need a new building, we need public works building, there's a lot of stuff of core issues within this township that needs to be spent money on. And to spend money on a sledgehammer that's maybe 2 or 3 flies or bad eggs, I call it, that is causing disruption within their neighbors. I think that's sad. I really do. So that's my comments.
Comments? Anyone else, council, would like to speak on this?
Well, I think I already said what I said, but through the chair, no, I can say, we gotta look at this. You know, just like Harold said, that we can't say it is a small item, it is because, and you all people have a right to live in your areas, in your homes, in cottages, whatever it be, without having to have people coming in and making you lock your doors. So I think we gotta look at a lot of things. And this is a situation, it's not gonna go away. It's not gonna go away. In fact, it's going maybe. I just show it's going right across, not just Ontario, Canada, the world. Everybody's dealing with this kind of stuff. I mean, because the cost of everything is so great. So they're just a one shot for 1 week or 2 weeks, and then you're done for the year. So that's why people are paying this, because they can't afford to have these properties that they would like to enjoy. But anyways, I think we gotta look at it before we decide anything and what step, and we gotta do something. But I don't think we have to make any decision now, so we all talk and go over it and see what we want to do.
Thank you for that, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Verboort, your hand is up.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Watson. I think Councillor Johnson actually took the majority of my points there. It's pretty hard to ignore a lot of constituents that are saying by signing a petition, even if some of them don't live full-time in the area, we have no way of verifying if they're renters or if they own the property. But it sure is a lot of signatures. I think we've got to give it that credit, considering how many constituents there are in the whole township. 600 some odd signatures is quite a bit. I think it is very much, as Councillor Johnson said, it's a matter of people being able to enjoy their property. And then on the other side of the fence, looking at it and saying, yes, there is potential for blowback from short-term rental operators as well. And what are the legal fees? The other side that I don't think we've looked at is what are the potential legal fees and court challenges from mobile home and resort and motel types of operators, because they're offering the same type of service as a short-term rental operator that owns multiple properties and is essentially operating a hotel. Those people that own a resort are being victimized there too. So I think there's a lot of work that could be done by staff, as Councillor Johnson said, just in terms of looking at what are the options that other municipalities are doing right now, whether they're enacted or in progress. And kind of along with some previous comments, we may not want to be the very first to pull the trigger on this subject, but it's one that requires some further work and investigation before we do act. So I don't think Councillor Johnson had said this, and I'm not too sure if there's another hand up at all, but if it's possible to make a motion that staff come back with a report on potential licensing options and summary of a summary of ones that have been kind of more successful than others in the province.
Councillor Vervoort, I know staff are writing down the motion. It looks like that you're proposing. Were you also trying to capture the costs? What those licensing costs would be?
Yes, like a comprehensive report on that. Because
Okay,
as Councillor Johnson said, we need to have a pretty fulsome picture here of costs and revenue.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Could you also just clarify a comment that you made for my benefit? You were referencing resorts and camp, like trailer parks, I think, and how they might feel about like how they're effectively operating a short-term rental. Are we talking about like a traditional commercially licensed and approved resort that's already operating potentially in our township or otherwise, or?
Exactly, that's exactly correct. I'm not too sure why those operators haven't gotten up in arms saying I need to have a commercial business license and pay commercial property tax for owning a resort, which is slightly larger than this 6,000 square foot Airbnb cottage rental right next door to me. They're taxed at a much lower tax rate than I am. So how is that fair to a commercial business operator?
Okay, I understand. Thank you for clarifying. I think I heard that when you spoke. I apologize. So we do have a motion on the floor. Sorry. Madam Clerk, yes.
Through you, Madam Mayor, if I could just ask Councillor Vervoort, I've captured some notes on what you said. I just want to confirm that I've done that correctly.
Sure thing. Yes, please.
So that council requests that staff report back with a report regarding licensing options, information on what avenues are successful, what the cost would be for licensing program, what revenues could be gained, and any potential legal issues that may arise.
Through you, Mayor Watson, that's exactly the spirit of the motion there.
Thank you for confirming.
I apologize that my motions are frequently long-winded and meandering, but I think at the end of the day, we get to the point there.
Great, thank you for that. Will someone, is there a member of council who's willing to second that motion?
I'll second the motion.
Councillor Johnston. Is there any discussion on the motion? Councillor Watt?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, through you. Yeah, just the fact that, and we already have discussed this earlier, it's not going to be something you can come back with in a day or two because it's a lot to put together. It's a lot of work. We want to monitor what others have been doing, and like it's been said by a few of our councilors here, we don't want to be the guinea pig, kind of like that. We want to see, and we don't want to get caught up in a bunch of lawsuits right away. So like I said before, do you take the one that's got 10 rental properties compared to the one that rents it out for 2 weeks? Where do you draw the line of where you license, where you don't? So this is all questions that I'm hoping maybe staff can find out from other municipalities, how they've addressed that, how, you know, I mean, it's a game all the way around that, you know, okay, you did something right, you didn't do something right, we did something right, they didn't do something right. And then you try and put together a package that kind of suits everything, but I don't think it's gonna be the easiest thing in the world to do.
Okay, any other discussion to the motion? Before I call the vote on this, I think I'm echoing a lot of what's already been said, but going into something like this with eyes wide open and having the information before us with respect to what those licensing options are, the costs, even enforcement. I know CEO Arthur's report referenced a MAT tax as a possibility, and I imagine that the report coming forward based on the motion would include that in terms of costs as well. And potential revenues for that. But you're right. I mean, we have a number in our municipality that's been identified through the Granicus kind of preview information. And we have equally many more residents in our community who are concerned about it on both sides of it. So I think having some information going forward so that we as a council can look at this eyes wide open is really important. So it doesn't sound like it's going to be the end of the conversation. So moving on then, can I call for the vote? All in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you. Okay, so moving down the agenda, we do have some correspondence items. Certainly, people who are not interested in watching the rest of our business are welcome to leave. You don't have to sit politely, but you're also welcome to stay. We do have some correspondence items. We'll start with item 12.11. Oh my gosh, you're right. Thank you. I flipped the page. We're on to item 11 for me, committee minutes and other reports. So we have the events committee meeting minutes of August 21st. And do you want to book them together? We can do them both together?
I will make a motion to receive both.
To receive both, and Councillor Johnson?
I want to second it.
Okay.
I just want to say one thing on the event committee. Our Remembrance Day, we're moving the date from November 11th to November 10th as far as having our ceremony. That way we can have schools, they send the classrooms over to, because it's very important to keep this thing going. And therefore the younger kids and the older ones, it's very important that we have them in attendance. So we're having it on for Remembrance Day, which is on a Saturday, on the 11th. It's going to be, we're having ours on the 10th, on Friday, 11 o'clock. So just to let the public know that anybody can make it, we appreciate it.
Thank you for highlighting that, Councillor
And what was
Johnson.
the other one? Okay. I just want to, I don't think there's anything there coming up about the, with our event committee about Santa Claus parade. It will be again on a Saturday on November 25th on a Saturday. And I'm pretty sure we're staying to the 5 o'clock parade. There was some talk of maybe moving it to 4 o'clock. So we haven't decided that 100%. But anyways, just let you know, we need people to participate in our Santa Claus parade. There will be luncheon and that on both these occasions. Remembrance Day, we're going to have a little luncheon up top after the ceremonies, and at the Santa Claus parade, there's luncheon and that for the kids, and so we like people to participate, whether it be showing up at it or putting a float in at the Santa Claus parade. So I just want to bring that to your attention. Seem to have some people here.
Thank you for seconding the motion to receive those minutes. All in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you. Now we are on to correspondence. I apologize, getting ahead of myself. So we have 3 letters that were included in the package on short-term rentals. One from Barbara McGregor, one from Betsy McGregor, and one from the Birchcliff Property Owners Association. Council, what would you like to do with those? Councillor Verboer?
I'd like to make a motion to accept. And we've already incorporated the feedback from those letters into some of our discussion here this evening.
Okay, so a motion to receive?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll second it with thanks.
Councillor Watt?
And the only comment I want to make is that to let these on record that we did receive them and we have all read them and respect their input. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for that. All in favor? And that motion carries. I assume that's why your hand was still up, Councillor Verboer, yes?
Yes.
Thank you. We also have item 12.2, a letter from the town of Midland, a resolution regarding catch and release justice in Ontario. Council, what would you like to do with this one? Sorry, Councillor Verboer.
Yes, through you, Mayor Watson, I would like to receive and strongly support this correspondence.
Thank you. Will someone second that motion?
I'll second
Deputy Mayor Nelson, any discussion? All in favor? And that motion carries. Okay, moving on to bylaws. We have none today. No reports from notices of motion or notices of motion. Any announcements, council? Hearing Councilor Watt.
I do, actually. One of our residents, Dave Leeper, lives down in Douro-Dummer. I just talked to him on the weekend here, and he said to say a big thank you to the township and who supplied the information stuff for the trees. He said he got some trees down there. He was just amazed at what he got for his money, and he's very happy about it, and he wanted that passed on. That was a great program, and thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing that. That was a fun event.
Yeah.
I was there for a good chunk of Saturday, a whole Saturday, and part of Friday, and it was great talking to folks as they were picking up their trees. Deputy Mayor Nelson.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, same thing. I heard accolades from a lot of residents that have bought trees, and the feedback was fantastic, and how great the trees were. So anyways, pass that on. That was, I think, a great service we did.
Great. Not to steal any thunder, but I think our CAO will have a report coming forward on that, or the success, or presumably the success of the program. Fantastic. Any other announcements? Seeing no hands up, we have no closed session and motion for the confirming bylaw. Mayor Nelson, Councillor Watt, all in favor? That motion carries. Looking at our next meetings, we have committee of the whole next Tuesday at 10 o'clock.
10 a.m.
Yep, at 10 o'clock here in the chambers, October 10th. And then our next regular council meeting is October 17th. And could I please get a motion to adjourn? Deputy Mayor Nelson, Councillor Johnston, all in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone, for coming.